Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if scrolling through social media is actually making you feel different right now? This new study dives deep into exactly that. So, there has been a lot of talk lately, and rightfully so, about how teens are feeling, their well-being, how happy and healthy they are overall. Has been a big focus, and social media, of course, is often pointed to as a major player in all this. But here is the tricky part. The research on whether social media is good or bad for teens has been all over the place. Some studies say it's harmful, others say it's not that big of a deal, and some findings are just plain confusing. Why all the mixed results? Well, the researchers here suggest a big reason is that we often look at social media use as one big thing. We think about how much time someone spends on their phone or on apps. But is that really how it works? Think about it as scrolling through TikTok the same as posting a picture on Instagram or sending a private message? Probably not. This new study wanted to look closer at what teens are actually doing and seeing on social media. They figured maybe the experience of using social media is way more important than just the total time spent. So, how do you study someone's real-time experience with something as complex as social media? The researchers use something called the experience sampling method, or ESM. Imagine this: instead of asking teens to remember what they did on social media all last week, they pinged them multiple times a day for 2 whole weeks. It was like a constant check-in. They asked 157 teenagers aged 15 to 19 about how they were feeling right at that moment, and also what they had been doing on social media in the last few hours. This way, they could see how their social media activities were connected to their feelings, minute by minute. They got a good group of teens involved, over 150 of them. Most of them were girls, and they were around 17 years old on average. For 2 weeks, these teens got 4 pings a day on their phones. These weren't long surveys. They were quick questions designed to capture their mood and what they were doing online. Right then and there, this is super important because it gives us a snapshot of their actual moment experiences, not just what they might remember later. When they asked about how the teens were feeling, they looked at a few different things. They asked about positive feelings like happiness, negative feelings like sadness, how lonely they felt, and how good they felt about themselves, which is called self-esteem. These are all key pieces of what makes up our overall well-being. And when it came to social media, they broke it down. They asked if the teens had publicly posted anything, like a story or a picture that lots of people could see. They also asked if they had been viewing content, basically scrolling through what others had posted. This distinction between doing and consuming is really key to what they were trying to figure out. But it wasn't just about what they did. It was also about what they saw or what they posted. They looked at the type of content. Was it text, a photo, or a video? And they asked how positive or negative the teens felt that content was. This idea of valence, or how positive or negative something feels, is super important, especially with all the curated content online. So, after collecting all this data from the teens over 2 weeks, they used some fancy math to analyze it. They used something called dynamic structural equation modeling. Think of it as a super powerful tool that can look at how things change within a person over time, and how those changes are connected. The big finding here was that the effects were mostly happening at the same time. What they did or saw on social media seemed to affect how they felt right then, but not necessarily hours later. There weren't big lagged effects, meaning what they did on social media didn't seem to drastically change their mood hours down the line. Let's get to the juicy results. What did they find about posting? Well, when teens posted something publicly, they reported feeling higher self-esteem at that moment. It seems putting yourself out there, even just a little bit, can give you a little boost in how you feel about yourself. Right then and there. Now, what about just scrolling or viewing? This is where it gets interesting and a little contradictory. When teens were just viewing content, they reported feeling more positive affect, meaning more happiness or enjoyment. But they also reported feeling more loneliness. How can you feel happier and lonelier at the same time from scrolling? The researchers think maybe it's a mix. You might see something entertaining or inspiring that makes you feel good. But at the same time, seeing everyone else's seemingly perfect lives can make you feel more alone. This is where the content itself really starts to matter. They found that if the content teens viewed was perceived as more positive, they reported higher positive feelings, higher self-esteem, and less loneliness. This really hammers home the point that what you see online makes a huge difference. Positive content seems to have a more consistently good effect. They also looked at the format photos versus text. They found that viewing photo-based content was linked to higher self-esteem compared to viewing text-based content. This might be because photos, especially those related to appearance, can be tied to self-image, and perhaps seeing aesthetically pleasing photos gives a temporary boost. However, They didn't find strong links for video content, which was a bit surprising given how popular it is. So, what's the big takeaway? The researchers are saying it's not enough to just ask how much time are you on social media. We need to ask, what are you doing and what are you seeing? The type of activity, posting versus viewing, and the quality of the content, positive versus negative, photo versus text, all play a role in how teens feel in the moment. This study really emphasizes that the effects of social media are personal and happen within each individual. Moment by moment, it is not a one-size-fits-all situation. What one teen experiences and how it affects them can be very different from another teen, even if they're using the same app. Now, let's talk about the strengths of this study. Using that experience sampling method, or ESM, is a huge plus. It allowed them to capture these real-time feelings and activities, which is much more accurate than asking people to recall things later. They also managed to look at both what teens were doing and what they were seeing, which is a really important step forward from just looking at screen time. But like all research, there are some limitations. One thing they noted is that teens didn't post that often. Most of their time was spent viewing content. This means they couldn't really dig into the characteristics of posted content as much as they wanted. Future studies might need bigger groups or longer observation periods to really capture posting behavior. Another point is that they relied on the teens' own reports of whether the content was positive or negative. They didn't actually look at the posts themselves. So, in the future, combining this kind of experience sampling with technology that can actually analyze the content itself could give us even more detailed insights. And it's crucial to remember, as the researchers point out, social media is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to adolescent well-being. There are so many other things going on in their lives: school, friends, family, their own biology, that all influence how they feel. Social media isn't the only cause, nor is it the only solution. So to wrap up, the next time you hear someone asking if social media is good or bad for teens, you can tell them it's a lot more complicated than that. This research shows that how teens use social media and what they see makes a real difference to their feelings in the moment. Focusing on positive content and understanding the different activities, like posting versus viewing, gives us a much clearer picture. It's not about banning phones, but about understanding the nuanced ways these digital tools shape our experiences. What do you think? Does this research align with your own experiences or observations? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more science explained simply, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.